Welcome back. Now in this video we're going to talk about getting started with PyQt5, and what I've done here is just created a folder called GUI, and I have a getting started.py file here which is going to have all of my code, of course. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to import PyQt5. As you know that PyQt5 is it's an object-oriented, it's a class-based API, and what we can do is that it has a lot of other classes which are in the main class, so we're going to use it like that. For example, in this basic program that I'm going to show you to make using PyQt5 in this lecture is going to be made like this. So we can import Qt widget. From Qt widgets we can import a lot of stuff. Qt widgets is a class inside PyQt5 which has many other classes and things. Just think of it like that. This is another class, QLabel, which helps us create labels. Similarly, from PyQt5 we have Qt widgets, just like before. Qt widgets has a lot of widgets and QLabel is a widget. We can import a QMain window. QMain window is very important for creating windows. Now we can see there are many other, of course, Qt widgets. From Qt widgets you can import QApplication. QApplication is very important to make applications. Now let's write our first application before going into more details. To write an application in PyQt5, you have to make a class that extends the main window if you're creating a main window first. So let's say I make a widget called main window or my window. Let's say my window. My window has to extend or be the subclass of this QMain window thing that we imported. This is something that has to happen whenever you're creating something from PyQt5. Make sure, for example, let's say I'm making a dialog box of my own choice. When you're making that class, you have to extend, you have to make it a subclass of the thing that PyQt5 has already provided you. You're just making changes to it, you're just adding things to it. So let's say I make my window, my main window, and in my main window I have a lot of things, but first thing, the most important thing that you're going to do here is create a constructor. As we know in classes, you're going to pass it itself, and there are some other things, for example arguments. These are the arguments that you pass on when you are creating. For example, command line arguments are, you don't need to know them, but you pass them alongside the application. You don't need to write this, the program will work just fine, but you have to make sure that you have passed them, because sometimes it may show up some quirk somewhere. So just write them like that. These are, and you know, this is a spread operator for an array, and this is the spread operator for, well, a list. So they come in like this, as we'll see soon enough, that you can pass these arguments, but we're not going to pass these arguments in this whole course as we don't need them. Now, one more important thing is that I'm going to have to pass this my main window in the super. Super, of course, goes on to the, the super class, and it just runs the whole thing that the main window has, the QMain window provided to us by PyQt has. You have to give it this my main window to the constructor of the parent, which is of course our QMain window. Then you pass in the self, which is our current context, and then you initialize the constructor of the parent, as we always do when we're doing inheritance, as this is what it is. Then you of course pass on the arguments that were also passed on to our class. Now this is mostly the only thing. This will probably remain the same always. And now we get to work. Now what are the things we changed? We changed the attributes of our main window. We can set its window title. We can set its width and height. We can do a lot of stuff. But before we do any of that, let's just run this, right? And what will happen when we run this? Well, nothing will happen because you have not done anything yet. So we have to, what we have to do now is we have to, make it work. So first thing you have to do when you're actually creating a PyQt application, you have created this class. This class has all your functionality you want, sure, but what else you can do is what else you have to do is you have to create this application object, or Q application object, which we imported from Qt widgets, and pass on, these are the arguments in array which we pass on to the main, to our main window. We'll see as this application gets these arguments, just like this main window gets these arguments, this Q application gets these arguments. In it's just an empty array, don't send anything to it. And I'm gonna set my window in a way that it's my main window, and I initialize it without passing anything. I'm not passing anything here, and I create my window, and that's about it. Now what? Well, we have to use the window.show method and app.execute method. These are some things that you have to run. It's just very important that you do that, especially this one. If you don't do it, then you're gonna have to finish the program end the program from the task manager, which is going to be a little hard because there are so many other applications running at the same time. So make sure this method is running. And what happens when you run it? Let's see. You see that it says, of course, the title that we set, but what happens is that other parts of the application won't be accessed because it uses one thread, and this is the one that is used. So make sure that window.show is on and this is actually visible to the user. Now what else can we do here? Well, we can set its, first let's resize. You can also add a label, as we imported a label here. And there are other things that you can do. I don't want to bombard you with a lot of information, and you can change the size of the font. But one thing that you have to do once you have made a widget, like this is a widget, you would have to call this function called set central widget. This is going to be the widget of the main window. This is very important that you do that. But whatever widget you make, this is going to be a central window, central widget. I will run this. It'll show me, hello, I am a label. And you can add stuff to it. You can change its font. For example, I want to store its font, so I can call label.font method. I will get its font and I can change its settings. Label.font.set point size will change my point size. Let's say 50, 49. Or then I can just set font to this font. And remember that this is camel case notation when we're writing the methods. Now if I call this, it'll be a big label. So these are the things, these are basic things. Just to summarize again, first thing that we did was we imported all the libraries from our classes given by PyQt5. Then we created a main window. The main window must be a subclass of the QMain window. QMain window is given to us by PyQt, it's a widget, and then we saw that in that main window you can change its window title, you can resize it, and then you can add a lot of other stuff. A lot of other stuff could be a label, could be anything. You have to have main widget, set it up, and once you have done that, you have to make an application called Q application. Then you have to initialize your class that you made, which has all the functionality specific to your needs, and then you do window.show, which shows that thing, and app.execute. So this was the main thing with PyQt5 getting started. And just don't worry if you have to understand how these things work, but eventually we will do drag and drop, and these all things will be done automatically. We'll just be programming. So let's get right into it. And now I'm going to discuss some components after this video. So if you don't get anything, if you don't understand something, just ask in the server and on Udemy, wherever you want to ask, just ask a question. I'll make sure that I answer it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.